Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Potsie Chronicles.
We are here today, just watched season 1, episode 3, and we have a lot to say about this.
Boy, what an episode.
Yeah, that was quite an episode. So if you listen to our first 2 episodes, and if you haven't, if you would, we would definitely appreciate it. The shows have had somewhat, I don't even want to say somewhat, but had a very suggestive, you might even go so far as to say adult content, which is kind of crazy, thinking that not only was this on the air in 1974, but supposedly taking place in the 1950s. And the streak continues with episode 3, season 1. The show is called Richie's Cup Runneth Over. So before we talk about it, what were your thoughts hearing the title, Richie's Cup Runneth Over? What did you think it would be about?
Well, Runneth Over, I wasn't sure what the meaning of that would be.
Yes.
So I kind of just put Richie's Cup into perspective. When I hear like a cup, I think of like a tournament.
Oh,
So like the World Cup.
yeah. So
and
maybe
stuff.
Richie was in the World Cup.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had the World Cup back in the 1950s. We're not history buffs here, so we're not sure. I'm not sure. Are you sure? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, we don't know. But that would have been quite the episode, especially for the third episode out of the gate, as Richie somehow gets in the World Cup. I would have enjoyed that. And again, this could have been an alternate episode that we could maybe write alternate Happy Days episode, like Ralph Mouth being allergic to lemons last week, we said, and kind of your interpretation of just knowing the titles.
I mean, just imagine who's better, Ronaldo or Richie.
That would be good. You kind of have to do a historical thing, since that was the 50s and Ronaldo is somewhat current. Is Ronaldo retired, or is Ronaldo still playing?
I think he's played some games.
Wait, so he's still an active player?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah, we're not totally sure.
It's more so the GOAT conversation rather than who's active.
Yeah, kind of like the Michael Jordan, LeBron James debate. It would be like, who's better, Richie Cunningham or Ronaldo at this point, probably. So yeah. So, but it was not Richie playing soccer, but we will get into what it actually meant about his cup runneth over, because it was quite the thing. So yeah, do you want to just jump into the episode?
Forgot some things in the intro.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, the intro, and I want to also mention, before we talk about that, Henry Winkler, the Fonz, is not in the opening credits. Don Most, Ralph Mouth, is not in the opening credits. I think it's Aaron Moran. We still forgot to take notes this time. Who plays Joni is also in the end credits. Just to let everybody know, because I think I mentioned that last time. If Henry Winkler as the Fonz, no, they're at the end. But yes, let's talk about. I believe there were 2 scenes we missed, right?
Yes.
Yes. So Rock Around the Clock is still playing. The records that's spinning around says Happy Days. So I'm wondering if, I don't know why they would have gone back and dubbed Rock Around the Clock over the Happy Days theme. So I'm guessing either they did that, which doesn't seem possible, or they just were like, hey, the show is Happy Days. If you see the record, even though Rock Around the Clock is playing, the record says Happy Days because that's the name of the show.
Funny name for Rock Around the Clock.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know why they did that. If you worked on the show and know, or if you're a Happy Days historian, please leave us a comment so we would know. So the first scene that we missed, I guess you could say, is as the song is playing, it looks like they're perhaps in the Arnold's bathroom. Richie, oh, I can't do this. Richie's combing his hair. Then they cut to Potsie combing his hair. Then just a random guy is combing his hair. And it's not Ralph Mouth. It's not Fonzie, which, I don't think Fonzie would he'd have to be by himself. But I don't know if it's because this guy seemingly has like a crew cut, and they found him. He was an extra. And they're like, hey, get in here. We need a guy with a crew cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the 3 of them are combing their hair. And then take us to the other scene that we missed, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so The other scene that we quote unquote missed was this guy and a girl. I don't think it was any characters that we had seen.
No, I think it was just like maybe random people,
Yeah.
either Arnold's that drive in the submarine races. I'm not sure.
An ensemble, if you will.
Yes.
And this guy's making out with the girl, and he presses her against the car door.
Yes.
And they both fall out while they're making out.
Yes.
And I think they had a shocked, there was another car right next to them.
Yes, which was Richie and Potsie, right?
Yeah. They kind of had a shocked, kind of happy reaction, too.
Yeah,
I remember that reaction from Potsie.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Richie was shocked, and then he turns to Potsie, and Potsie's laughing. And then they freeze it with Potsie going like, ah! Like his mouth is open, he's laughing. And I vividly remember this. I think this was on every episode. So, like, the man with the crew cut, I think, gets cut after a while in the opening credits. But I believe the two people making out and Potsie and Richie, his reaction is through the whole series. We'll find out. Hopefully, we'll see at the end if we'll find out if this continues on past, when they do the credits again differently. So we did miss that. All right. Now I'm going to start this by saying this episode went by fast. So that could be many reasons. One, I just really enjoyed it and I was into it. It could be. Two, it really was only 10 minutes because it seemed like it was 10 minutes. I feel like that is not as possible because, with the sponsors and commercial breaks and everything, I don't think they could have had a 10-minute episode.
We didn't take notes here, folks.
Yeah, we'll need to do that. And also, much like the town last week, we didn't have a clock to kind of time how long it took. So we begin at the parking lot of Arnold's, and it's dark, so it could be 4 a.m. If you remember from our last episode, Arnold's doesn't seem to close. So Fonzie has 2 girls right by his bike, and Fonzie, he's still not wearing the patented leather jacket. It looks like it's that white jacket that he was wearing. Am I right? It was dark, so it was hard to see.
Yeah.
So there's 2 girls around Fonzie, and it looks like there's also an entourage behind the girls, but he seems to be talking to the girls. He's like, hey, somebody's touching my bike. And first, it was great to hear Fonz actually talking because he doesn't say so much in the first 2 episodes. So I believe intimidating the girls a little bit, like, hey, get off of my bike. You're welcome to stand around the Fonz, but, the bike is off limits, ladies.
You're not cool enough to ride the Fonz bike.
Yes. You can hang, and we'll see where it goes from there, but, don't touch the Fonz's bike. And Richie's there. Ralph Mouth comes up, and apparently he has a mannequin from his father's store, so he took a mannequin out of it. It's great. First of all, I just want to say it's great to see Ralph Mouth. Ralph Mouth is one of my favorites. He kind of played a minor role in the 2 beginning episodes. He also, we'll find out, plays a minor role here. I kind of thought he was going to be one of the main characters, but he's not. He does come for the first part, and he's like, hey, I got this mannequin from my father's store, and I put it in the car, and wait till you see what the waitress does. So then the waitress comes out, and she's like, hey, lady, I don't know if she says, hey, lady, but she's like, hey, I got your order here, miss. And then she's like, miss. And even though it's clear, even from the side, you can tell it's a mannequin. She's like, hey, miss, this is your food. And then she touches the mannequin after she puts the food down, and the mannequin's head comes off, and she screams. And she's like, I'm quitting. And then they pan back to Ralph, Richie, Fonzie, whoever else is there. And they're all excited. And then the Fonz gives a single thumbs up like, wow, that was great. As they're all laughing hysterically by this.
I think he even gave like a little smile to it.
Yeah, the Fonz broke into a little bit of a smile from this. So he was happy.
Not like too big of a smile.
Not like
just
laughter, but like
maybe like a little smirk.
It was the Fonz's laughter, just like a little smile with the 1 thumbs up.
Just saying, Ralph Mouth is 2-1 for mentioning hickeys, but
yes. So we'll see if Ralph Mouth mentions hickeys because he's batting 1,000. The first 2 episodes he mentions hickeys. He doesn't mention hickeys with the mannequin in this scene. So we'll see what happens. Potsie rides up on his bike, and he's got a little basket on the front of his bike that is holding some type of grocery bag that it looks like the top of carrots or something. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
It doesn't look quite like a bunch of lettuce, but it is like this green. It looks like the top of carrots. They never mention what or why he has that. But he rolls up, and then Richie's all excited. He's like, "Hey, Ralph brought this waitress. We did this funny mannequin trick." And Potsie really burst the bubble of his friends. He's like, that's kid stuff. He's like, you want to know what I did? I got us invited to a stag party with a bunch of Marines. My cousin's a Marine. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going down this road that is not quite as family friendly, because stag party, those types of things, it's looking like it's going to be not so family friendly now.
We thought it was going to get, watching episode 2, I felt like it was getting better.
Yeah.
I thought, hey, we're getting more in that family friendly zone.
Yeah.
You could watch this with your 4-year-old son or something.
Yeah.
Have a blast.
Yeah, you can make the case like submarine races, that's not as family friendly, but you could also put like, well, it's kind of typical shenanigans, maybe in the 50s, I don't know. But yeah, but then you get to a stag party, that does seem a little racier, if you will, than, the submarine races. So, they're not concerned that they literally got a waitress to quit and leave her financial situation and her well-being.
Yeah. And also, I think what happens after he gets the invitation and everything.
Yeah.
We cut to a scene where the waitress is going out of the place, out of uniform and whatnot.
Yeah.
And she looks into the trash and she sees the mannequin head again. And then she does the same exact scream that she had screeched before.
And yeah, she's like, it's following me. I really quit. So she quits after seeing the mannequin head again. And what's crazy is somebody threw the mannequin head in the trash. Doesn't that need to be back in Ralph Mouse's father's department store, that mannequin?
That's a fair point.
Yeah. So she quits. No one's concerned about her well-being, the fact that she was terrified, the fact that she left her job. They just say, she quits all the time. So apparently the Arnold's manager, who we have not met yet, is okay with her quitting and coming back. So going back to Potsie and Richie, apparently Aunt Bessie is coming to town, and which of all the things about his parents letting him go to a stag party, he's thinking that Aunt Bessie is the reason his parents won't let him go to a stag party. So Aunt Bessie's in town. He doesn't think he can make it. Potsie's like, gee, Rich, you better make sure you can make it. This is a big deal. And he's like, okay, I'm going to talk to my dad. I want to mention this episode, like the previous episode, had a very spotty laugh track. Like when all of these shenanigans with the mannequin going on, there was no laughter. But in a little bit, there will be laughter, and it kind of goes back and forth between what seems to be the funny jokes. Some of the funny jokes do not receive the canned laughter where others do. So I don't know if they had a laugh track consultant and they're like, no, they know to laugh when the mannequin falls down and the lady screams and they're all laughing, but they don't know to laugh when, something else happens. I don't want to give any spoilers yet.
Okay. Now here's where the next scene comes in, right?
Yes.
We have one of the best characters in the history of media come in.
Yes.
Now, it's not Fonzie. This character comes very close to Fonzie, I tell you.
Yes.
It is the almighty Chuck.
Yes.
He comes in dribbling his basketball.
Yes.
And you could see Howard Cunningham is very annoyed by it.
Yes. So let's dive into Chuck a little bit here. There's a couple things. One, Chuck is back. So here's what I wonder. Maybe all of these episodes weren't filmed in sequential order. And what I mean is, because since he wasn't in 2 and they didn't have a place for him, episode 2, maybe they filmed 1 and they're like, oof, Chuck isn't doing it. Let's give him another chance, because he, much like Fonzie in the beginning, didn't say a word. Like he came in and he dribbled his basketball, and then Howard took his dribbling to be words. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he kind of did. Like, he was communicating with them through the dribbling.
Yeah, so maybe they're like, all right, Chuck, we're giving you one more chance. We'll have to see if Chuck's on any episodes after this. But you're not saying a word. You're going to dribble your basketball, and that'll be your communication. And he was really into his basketball because even before he mentioned, like, Howard, we're kind of jumping over the map, but Richie talked to him before Chuck came in, and Howard's like, yeah, Chuck and his basketball. So we do know that Chuck loves basketball.
He speaks to him in some sort of a Morse code.
Yeah, because he was dribbling, and Howard's like, okay, Chuck, you don't need to see Aunt Bessie. So Richie comes in. He asks, which might have been before Chuck, but we were so excited to see Chuck that we had to just mention it.
My assumption is that Chuck came back from basketball practice, and that's why we see him again.
That could very well be. That is a great theory. So Richie comes in. This might have happened before, or it might have happened after Chuck. We can't remember. We didn't take notes. But Richie comes in, and he's like, hey, I got this party I want to go to. And Howard's like, but Aunt Bessie's here. And he's like, what kind of party is it? Richie's like, well, it's a stag party with these very nice Marines. And then Howard's like, oh, we have to take care of our veteran. That sounds great. But, Aunt Bessie's here. Joni's gone. She's at a slumber party, apparently. And, Chuck is an idiot. He doesn't say it in those words, but he doesn't want it to just be Chuck. So, yeah, which it must have come before, because then I think when Chuck dribbled the basketball, Howard knew that he was going to play basketball instead. But it doesn't really matter. So somehow Richie convinces Howard. Does he even say, like, I trust you or something like that?
It might have been in those kind of words.
Yeah. So, again, I feel like this episode was filmed before, because Howard, since he trusts Richie, he doesn't seem to remember that Richie and Potsie were out well past midnight with two lady friends at the submarine races with the car broken down. One good thing about it, as we'll describe, is Howard is becoming less of a problematic father. It's not as bad as the first two episodes. So Richie is able to go to the stag party instead of see his Aunt Bessie. So it seems like it's just going to be Howard and Marion watching the slides from her trip to Yonkers that Howard mentions. So we cut to Arnold's. Richie and Potsie are in suits to go to the stag party. So I guess even though it's the 1950s and I didn't know that they had stag parties, then I guess you would assume they would. They're still dressed to the nines to go to a stag party.
And weren't they, I think this is the right scene, but
yes,
weren't they drinking a bunch of milk?
Yes, they were drinking a bunch of milk. They had these gifts, these very elaborate gifts, which I'm not sure how they would got those in the hours since Potsie told them. I don't know what it was like in the 1950s store hours, but yeah, they had these elaborate wrapped gifts for the bachelor party. And yeah, they're drinking a bunch of milk. And what they think is that if they drink milk, they'll be able to drink a lot of beer, because I can't remember what they said, something to the effect of the milk will coat their stomachs and they won't be able to be drunk. And then Fonzie turns, because he's in the next booth. You just kind of see his head and his arm over, and he's like reading something. And he goes, no, it's olive oil. And Potsie's like, olive oil? Are you sure about that? And then Fonzie, like the most pissed I've ever seen him, which is just a cool piss, he goes, I just said it, didn't I? So they're like, oh, well, we got to, even though they just drank like what seemed like 80 glasses of milk, now they got to go get olive oil because the Fonz said that drinking olive oil will not make them drunk.
I believe I don't remember what happened. Did Potsie have to go to the restroom or something?
I feel like they all should have at that point with all that, but yeah, I think so. And then Richie asked Fonz if he wanted to go. Yeah. Fonz was like, no, I'm going to take it easy tonight. He said he was going to he didn't say anything about ladies, but he said something like he was going to do, like, maybe read, and he was going to write stuff on the bathroom wall. And Richie's like, you write the best stuff on the bathroom wall, Fonz. And I feel like there was no laugh track for that comedic line. Maybe everybody just knew that would be funny.
My question is how do they know the Fonz has been writing that stuff on the bathroom wall?
I guess he takes credit. And I don't know what he's been writing, but it would be nice to know, like, what he's like. They should have given us like an example of what he was writing. Because is he writing like jokes, limericks, song lyrics,
I'm sure whatever it is, like, the place wouldn't want him doing stuff like that, but he's probably too cool to get in trouble.
Yeah. So. Again, we haven't met the owner of Arnold's yet, but I wonder if the owner of Arnold's would be like, hey, who's writing on my wall? Then they're like, oh, it's Fonz. Oh, never mind. You know?
Yeah.
Since it was the Fonz that they wouldn't care. But yes, so the Fonz is going to take it easy. We cut to the Marine stag party, let's just call it. There are a lot of Marines. We know that because they're dressed in the Marine with the ties. And they're all like really, let's just say getting kind of rowdy. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and we see I can't remember his cousin. Let's call him Cousin Arnold. Well, that's the Brady Bunch. Let's call him Cousin. Do you remember the cousin's name? I feel like his cousin's name was Arnold. Am I mistaken? I think it was.
I can't remember.
Let's say Cousin Arnold, which is kind of odd, though, when we have an Arnold's restaurant and his Cousin Arnold. I'm going to say his Cousin Arnold because I'm 99% sure it's Cousin Arnold. We meet his Cousin Arnold, who kind of looks like Flounder from Animal House. I think the actor's name is Stephen First, and I did look at the end. It was not credited as Stephen First, so it's not Stephen First. So he's kind of like a big, jovial guy that is Potsie's cousin, and he has the CM Punk hairstyle that CM Punk has now, where it's kind of big at the top. You know what I mean? It's kind of slicked.
Kind of known as the Beavis haircut.
Yeah, kind of very similar to Beavis, but with a little bit, but he had the dark hair like CM Punk, kind of slicked back. So the Beavis CM Punk cut this guy had, and kind of a larger gentleman,
Beavis and Butthead, if you will.
Yes. So he is excited to see Potsie, I'm guessing, and Richie. And then the first thing he does, he's like, "Hey guys, you want to play some cards?" And and here's where we go down the hide your 8-year-old's eyes while we watch this. He pulls out a deck of cards, and like Richie and Potsie in their finest suits sit down, and they're looking at the cards and like, oh, and like you see like this like drawing of a lady on the one side, and they're like, "Oh, look at the King of Hearts or the Queen of Hearts." I don't remember.
Yeah, you could just see how amazed they are.
Yeah.
And I think before he even said that, he was, "Oh, you want to play some cards?" And then you can see how progressively shocked he gets.
Yes, they're looking at the cards and they are completely shocked and talking about the ladies.
And then they're saying stuff like, "Oh, this one's in diamonds."
Yes. Oh. They're really excited to see these, I'm just going to say, dirty cards. So they see these cards. They're very shocked yet happy. Their eyes kind of light up. We forgot to mention there's like a big keg of beer, and I think CM Punk / Beavis, Cousin Arnold, kisses the keg of beer, to just let the viewing audience know it's beer. And he's like, "I love beer," so it's like, in case anybody had never seen a keg before, they knew when he kissed it, he announced that he loved beer, that beer was what was in that keg. We cut to them all sitting down at the table now, and they're drinking shots of beer.
I think, cutting back, it might have been CM Punk, but
yes,
it was all like the Marines and stuff. They're like, "Well, it looks like you guys got a full deck of cards."
Yeah, they were like kind of on the line of mocking them, even though it was their cards that they're looking at these cards. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Since you remember that, do you remember, was there a laugh track then, or were they kind of on their own?
I don't remember, but I feel like I would have remembered that.
Yeah, I think we would have remembered the canned laughter at that. So, yeah, so let's cut back to them. They're taking shots of beer, and they're doing some kind of drinking game where I think they mentioned something about 60. Either they're drinking every 60 seconds or they're drinking 60 beers. I don't know. Oh, before we get to that, Potsie finds a bottle of olive oil. And he's like, "Hey, I found this bottle of olive oil." And then Richie's like, "Is it from Italy?" And he's like, "No, it's from Spain." And he's like, "Oh, the olive oil is supposed to be the best from Italy," which I don't know how they know this when I don't think the Fonz mentioned it. And then Potsie makes the joke of like, "Well, you try and go back there and steal something with guys with a bunch of meat cleavers." And I really don't think there was a laugh track after that joke. So,
and not only that, but they shared this olive oil.
Yes. Yeah. God knows where they got that olive oil from the kitchen. So I'm assuming it was clean, but then Potsie drinks from it. Then he just gives it to Richie and they shared the bottle of olive oil. Let's go back to the 60 challenge. They're drinking. They're like Beavis, CM Punk, Cousin Arnold, whatever you want to call him. It's definitely not CM Punk. Settle down, everybody.
That's just what we want to call him.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it was Cousin Arnold, but yeah. So Cousin Arnold is pouring all these beers. Richie and Potsie are noticeably getting drunk, which, we knew this was going to, I mean, you kind of could have seen it from the beginning when they start talking about beer that, oh yeah, these two are getting drunk.
Also knowing them, they're kind of like, what's the best way to describe them? They're kind of like, I don't know what age they are, but whatever age they aren't the average kind of.
Like, let's say they're 17. I think they're juniors, so I'm going to guess 16, maybe 7. Let's say 17 to kind of.
Yeah.
So 17.
But anyways, they're kind of like, I guess, I wouldn't say, they're kind of maybe weak might be the word.
Yeah.
Like, they're not like the Fonz level.
Yeah, they're definitely not the Fonz. Even Ralph Malph, I think, has got a little bit of an edge to him here where these two don't really have that edge. And another thing that I'm wondering is there's a couple things here. So they're drinking beer in the 1950s. I don't know what the legal age for beer is. Apparently, there's a lot of people in the kitchen. Maybe some of them would see like, hey, those kids aren't old enough to drink. Maybe the drinking age in the 50s was like 12. I don't know. Probably not, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe the drinking age was lower in the 1950s. I think it was probably 18. So let's just say it's 18. I don't know. But I don't think they're 18. So they're drinking. No one in the kitchen seems to have a care in the world that their olive oil is missing and that there's minors drinking with Marines. So they're drinking. Potsie makes the comment about how, didn't he say his teeth are numb or something to that effect that he's drunk?
I can't remember, but I do remember, I don't know if this happened like too forward into
Yes.
But he's like saying, hey, we're not winners. I wanted to be a winner.
Yes. So they're visibly drunk. And then the Marine guy, Cousin Arnold, he's like, hey, everybody wins. And Richie is pissed. Yeah. What does he say?
He's like, I think Potsie's like trying to calm him down. He's like, hey, we all kind of won or something.
Yeah. And Richie's,
well, I wanted it to just be us.
That was the most aggressive I've seen Richie so far. Yeah, that alcohol was really having a toll on him. He was like, yeah, we should have won. So they kind of don't really do anything about that. But a cake comes out, and there is a lady in the cake.
Potsie was knocked out during that.
Yeah. Potsie gets knocked out while the cake comes out, and the lady jumps out of the cake. She's in kind of a like sexy uniform, but if you watch like old timey stuff, I don't even know how to explain. So she kind of dresses out. She's kind of have a sexy outfit, and she's doing all these jokes, like kind of a sexual nature. She's like, yeah, you've heard of the battle him? I'm the battle her. And like the guys are like going, whoop, whoop. You know, kind of not the insane clown posse, whoop, whoop. Is that the insane clown posse that does whoop, whoop? I don't know. But it wasn't the insane clown posse. It was them whooping it up while the lady makes these jokes. And she's like, she doesn't ever take her clothes off.
Richie is also like up to Potsie's like, you got to see this. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, Potsie, wake up.
And Potsie is just the worst for wear. He is completely gone.
It was Potsie's idea, too.
Yeah, this was Potsie's big moment to shine. This is his cousin Arnold with the CM Punk hairdo, Beavis hairdo. And she's doing all this. She's going all around, jumping on the cake, kind of says some double entendres.
I guess you could say she was like riling them up.
Yeah, she's riling them up. They're whooping it up. She doesn't take her clothes off, which, you would hope not on a network TV show in the 1970s.
Especially if an 8-year-old got that remote.
Yeah, but it was enough that you were like, wow, this was on the TV in the 1970s, and this was supposed to be the 1950s. So then they cut to, she's in like a kind of orange outfit, like her normal street clothes, you might say, but she's still kind of dressed like a stewardess. She's got like an orange pillbox hat as she's kind of bidding the gentleman adieu. And there's one guy that's like, hey, you need a ride home? And she's like, no, I'm good. Yet Richie comes up to her and either she offers a ride and he asks and she accepts. So she is going to take Richie home, but does Richie remember that his best friend or one of his best friends is passed out, definitely doesn't have a way home because I assume that they came together, and he just leaves Potsie.
I mean, I just wonder how he's supposed to get home.
Yeah, he doesn't have a care in the world of Potsie. Now, he is drunk, but you would think he'd say like, hey, my very good friend, perhaps best friend, is really passed out, no way home. We came together. Maybe we should leave together. But no, he decides to leave with the lady. And then he's like, hey, if you don't have enough room for me, I could ride in the cake. And I think the laugh track does kick in there.
Yeah, it probably did.
Yeah. So then we cut to them in like what looks like a 1950s style pickup truck. Didn't you think? Do you remember? Yeah, it looks like nowadays they have the pickup trucks that are like so huge that I don't even know how they can get on the road. But this one was like a little small thing, and it did have the cake in the back. So apparently she transports the cake, and she even mentions like how her business is really good somewhere. I don't know if it was either before or after this. And so the cake's in the back. Richie and whatever her name, I can't remember. Oh, her last name. Here's another thing, which you probably have no idea what I'm about to say. I think it was Velma Laverne, but her last name is Laverne, as in Laverne and Shirley. It's not Laverne from Laverne and Shirley, but it's interesting, the foreshadowing.
Are you speaking English right now? I don't know what any of that meant.
So, anywho, Laverne, Velma, let's call her Velma. I don't want to confuse. Velma takes Richie up to his door, and he's like all drunk and slurring. So they're at the doorstep, and she's like, where are your keys? And she's like, where's your keys? And Richie's like, yeah, why don't you try and find it? So Richie is really getting suggestive there to where his keys are. And but he finds it, and he opens the door, and he invites her in. And she actually does go in.
I can't remember if it was before or after, but I do remember like she was about to leave.
Yes.
But he fell down on the ground.
I think that he fell inside. Maybe when he opened the door, right? So she goes in. Let's say that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because she does make it in. He invites her to dinner, and like she accepts. She's like, oh, I never have been invited to dinner. And I'm wondering, like, is Aunt Bessie hearing this? Is she still there at the Cunningham house? But someone does hear it. Howard Cunningham hears it, and he comes down in his robe.
Red robe, if you will.
Yes, he had a red robe as he came down, and he knows what's going on. At least he knows what's going on, that Richie's drunk. He doesn't, I don't know if he knows what's going on with why a lady's there. I would assume he has some ideas, but yeah, so he comes down. So then he says something like, yeah, I'll take it from here. And then the lady leaves, probably never to be seen again, probably like Chuck. And he's like, oh, let's get you to bed. And he's helping Richie put on his pajamas. So he's being a less problematic dad. He's kind of helping his son rather than screaming at him, because he obviously knows that he's drunk. Richie is asking if the bed is spinning, and Richie has no idea where he is. So Richie is just flat out drunk. He doesn't even mention like where Potsie is. Potsie could be anywhere for all we know. Then, as he's unsuccessfully trying to put his pajamas on, he's like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom, which, you would think, I think he's getting sick. You would think with all the milk, olive oil, and beer that he drank, like, I don't even know, like, why they didn't show that he had to keep going to the bathroom. Do you know what I mean? Like, with all the liquids that he drank.
Also, I mean, we didn't really see him be a problematic dad.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like in this part, he kind of was. He said something like, he's like, I need to go to the bathroom. And he's like, well, you better hope that door's open.
Yeah, because if somebody wasn't in the bathroom, I think. Yeah, maybe. And then he would have just thrown up. Yeah, so he was getting sick in there. And then Marion comes out, and she's like, oh, what's going on? That I didn't even mean to do an impression. I don't know. She's like, what's going on? And then Joni comes out. She's like, what's going on? And then he's like, hey, aren't you... So this is a little problematic, because he's like, aren't you supposed to be at a slumber party? He was home the whole time, and he didn't realize that his, let's say, 8-year-old daughter was there. He thought she was at a slumber party. So I'm not sure how she snuck past them.
She looked like she had grown.
She looked a lot older. So again, I'm wondering the filming sequences of these, because she looked older from the week before. But then that wouldn't make sense that they would have had Chuck. I don't know. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. So then she's like, oh, does Rich have the flu? Like, yeah, Rich has the flu, whatever. So Richie's getting sick in there. And then they decide, because the one thing Richie needs is more liquid, they decide to give him coffee to sober him up, not sleeping it off.
Doesn't Richie come out of the bathroom or something like, okay, he's telling the daughter just, well, he isn't sick, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And Richie comes out, and she's like, oh, I see what kind of sick he is.
Yeah, so kind of going back, like, Joni is a very wise to the world, if you will. She knew what the Nash seats were the week before. She knew that Richie was drunk. Like, she, for however old she is, I mean, she could be 30 for all I know. I doubt she's 30, but she seems to know a lot. So then Marion and Howard go to get Richie coffee instead of letting him sleep off his drunkenness. Then Howard mentions how Marion apparently got really drunk at a wedding and was like dancing on the table. I guess that made Marion understand, although I feel like Marion was a grown lady when that happened, and Richie is definitely not at least on the show, not a grown man. So then they make a joke like, oh, let's just give him the whole pot of coffee. So Howard goes back up to talk to Richie, and he's a very understanding father then. Richie's like, oh, are you mad at me? And he's like, I'm not mad at you. You know, you're just being a kid. Oh, I don't know about just being a kid, but like, oh no, you're making mistakes. So he's very understanding, and Richie's like, am I going to feel better when I wake up? And Howard's like, no, it's gonna be like another day. So we cut to the final scene, which, like I said, it feels like that episode just flew by, but maybe it didn't. So we cut to Arnold's. Richie and the Fonz are talking. The Fonz is not in the same booth as Richie. He's looking over all cool like he did before. And Potsie came in. So thank God Potsie is still alive and with us and able to come back. And so Richie somehow tells the Fonz that their night is not as wild as Potsie thought. Said, no, the girl kept her clothes on. And then Potsie tried to make the night seem wilder than before. So Fonzie did the thumbs up. Then he does the giant thumbs down to Potsie.
Yeah.
That was the end. Like I said, to me, that episode flew by. Again, it could have been enjoyment. It could have been that it literally was shorter because no one had clocks in the 50s, although this was filmed in the 70s. So I don't know.
I think they should make a movie on what happened to Potsie after Richie completely just abandoned him.
Again, we kind of have come up with our own alternate Happy Days episodes. So that could be one of like what the lost Potsie times where he was drunk and passed out with his cousin and others. And, we never, while Richie abandoned him.
He might have had to have gone through forest or something just to get back home. Who even knows? Someone could have probably just kicked him out, in the middle of nowhere in the desert somehow.
Yeah, the kitchen staff with the meat cleavers might have come out and realized that this is the man that took their olive oil and chased them out. Now, they didn't have Ubers back in the 50s. They didn't have Ubers not even that long ago. So he couldn't have taken an Uber. Perhaps they had taxis in the 1950s. I don't know.
I think it would have been kind of hard to get a taxi where he was at, though.
Oh, I'm really not sure how Potsie got home, but he did make it back.
Without a scratch, by the way.
Yeah, and the other thing is Potsie and Richie did not seem to be really hungover. For guys that drink 60 shots of beers at least, and milk and coffee, for Richie, and olive oil, none of them seemed like that they were, sick.
I'm surprised there wasn't any anger between Richie and Potsie.
Yeah, that's probably what I would have done. I probably would have just came in, if my friend left me at a place when I was all drunk and, they're only knowing my cousin. I mean, just the fact that you go with your friend and your friend deserts you while you're passed out. I probably would have had some words when I came into Arnold's and not tried to impress the Fonz. The impressing Fonz would have come later, but, I would have had some words for Richie had I been Potsie.
Yeah.
So, they just kind of sweep under the rug that Richie abandoned them to drive home with the lady with the cake. So we roll the credits again. That seemed quick. It didn't seem like the usual episode. Howard has, at least in this episode, become more of an understanding father. He understood Richie was being young, I guess, and getting drunk. Didn't yell, didn't scream, helped him out, gave him pot of coffee, which again doesn't seem like the best remedy for someone drunk, but instead of letting them sleep.
I wonder if we're gonna see now. I think we should do this every episode.
Yes.
Horrible Howard or helpful Howard?
Yes. So I would say let's do that. Let's go to our first two episodes. First two episodes, I would say horrible Howard. Would you agree?
Yes.
Episode 3, helpful Howard. What do you think?
I agree, because I don't really think there were any moments where he was just like, you know, using his negative humor. He was just kind of like, hey, this happens sometimes.
Yeah, just on the more on the line as him bringing up Marion's debacle at the wedding, jumping up on the table, but that isn't really like, I mean, he was kind of just, I think he was bringing it up to kind of defend Richie. So, that's being a good father. But yeah, he let his children's not see Aunt Bessie and do their thing. He was helpful to Richie. So yeah, I think overall, I can't even remember a problematic moment for Howard in this episode. Then we roll the end credits. I might have mentioned it before, but the Fonz, Henry Winkler, Don Most as Ralph Malph, Aaron Moran as Joni is in the end credits, not the beginning credits yet. So I don't even know if they said who played Chuck. It kind of went by fast. I do know it did not say Stephen First played Cousin Oliver, Potsie's cousin. So, but I don't remember who played him, but yeah. And one more thing that we forgot, they play Hound Dog yet again. This was Elvis Presley's version of Hound Dog. So no mention of Hickeys by Ralph Malph. We stopped that streak. But Hound Dog is played yet again in this episode.
It was right after the intro, right?
Yes, I think it was kind of leading up to the waitress, which I don't know how we didn't do that at the beginning of the episode, but yes, before the waitress, the whole mannequin Ralph Malph thing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think there was another Elvis Presley song, maybe Jailhouse Rock, I don't know, later. But the fact that they had Hound Dog 3 weeks in a row and another Elvis song, Elvis Presley was making either really good money or somehow they swindled him into getting the publicity.
Yeah, it had to have been one of those.
Yes. So that is the episode. Richie's Cup Runneth Over, episode 3 of season 1. So from what I can tell, because I believe it does say the complete first season, I would be rather shocked if there was like more than one DVD of the first season of Happy Days. It's entirely possible. But again, it seems like a mid-season replacement. I would probably say we're close to February 1974, if not in February 1974. We are not really researching anything. I mean, you could tell we could stop there. We're not really researching anything, but we're not really researching anything from Happy Days because we want it to be new to us. So like when we see the titles, we're guessing what it is. We're not looking at when it aired.
I haven't researched anything.
Yes.
So
yeah. The only reason I know is the first episode I researched when it started. So yeah, but I'm guessing we're getting close to February 1974, if not in February 1974 now with this episode. And mid-season replacement, I'm guessing. So we are halfway through the first season of Happy Days. Here's what's going on. This week, I am a little nervous. I feel like I'm going to be nervous throughout all of this at this point in time because what is coming up next is I'm going to ask my son, do you want to watch another episode of Happy Days? Now, that is episode 3. The math tells me there are 252 episodes of Happy Days left. I probably shouldn't have mentioned right before I ask him if he wants to keep doing it, how many episodes are left. I probably should have just left it at, do you want to watch another episode of Happy Days? But I just did that, so let's keep going. So the question is, do you want to watch another episode of Happy Days?
Yes.
All right. Again, it's giving me more and more anxiety every week, but I do think that this show, before we close, one thing that I neglected to mention is we never found out if Ralph Malph's father, what happened with the mannequin, because apparently the head is still in the trash can. And we'll also have to see if the waitress does indeed come back, if she's just quitting all the time and the owner of Arnold's is cool with her just quitting. You would think he'd be a little understanding of her thinking that she knocked the head off of somebody. That was episode 3, season 1 of Happy Days. We will be back another week. If you like this, please like, subscribe. As of this production, you can also find our podcast shorts and our full podcast on YouTube besides all the major streaming services. So if you like it, please spread the word. Please listen. And if you did not like it, again, please keep it to yourself. So that's our episode of the Potsie Chronicles. We'll see you again next week.
What's Happy Days?